I'm your host, Joel Perez, and you're watching Wrestling with Politics. And today we're going to be talking about a man who I consider to be the biggest political sellout in U.S. history. A man, for those of you who don't know, who had the opportunity to make so much change in this country. He had this country at the palm of his hands at one point, and he chose to do the exact opposite. He chose, instead of making historic change and changing this country for the better, to funnel it all straight back into a corporate war-mongering, genocidal Democratic Party. And for some reason, some people are just waking up to the fact that the man I'm talking about today, of course, Bernie Sanders himself, some people are just starting to realize that this guy is a complete sellout and that he sold you out. You should have known this about 10 years ago in 2016 when Bernie Sanders was running for president and he got shafted by Hillary Clinton. He got shafted by the Democratic Party. And instead of taking that once in a lifetime energy that Bernie Sanders had in the palm of his hands and funneling it into a third party independent grassroots movement, what did Bernie Sanders decide to do? He decided to funnel all that energy back into the Democratic Party, because that was his entire purpose to begin with. And now here today, here we are 10 years later, and Bernie Sanders is supporting the state of Israel. Of course he is, because he might pretend to be otherwise, but as we all know, he, just like AOCIA, who we spoke about in the video about 2 weeks ago or a week ago, of course, he's a closeted Zionist. And that's the exact clip that we're going to be watching here today. Let's not waste any more time here. Let's roll this clip about Bernie Sanders, who was asked about a one-state solution between Israel and Palestine. And his answer here, it reveals it all. Roll the clip.
And polls among Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Gaza are showing that they're increasingly in favor of a one-state solution with equal rights for Israelis and Palestinians alike and equal citizenship. Is that something you believe could happen, or is that something you support?
No, I don't. I mean, I think if that happens, then that would be the end of the state of Israel. And I support Israel's right to exist.
Do you think
that clip you've just seen right there of Bernie Sanders, it's especially heinous, it's especially disgusting, because like I said in the beginning here, Bernie Sanders is a guy who likes to pretend that he supports the Palestinians, that he likes to call out Israel every once in a while and acknowledge the fact that they are committing a genocide. And so if you acknowledge those facts, if you acknowledge that Israel is doing all these treacherous things, that they're killing all these children, that they're bombing hospitals, that they're committing genocide, how the hell could you sound the way Bernie Sanders and say the things that Bernie Sanders is saying, because he doesn't support a one-state solution between Israel and Palestine? And the one-state solution, that's how you solve this entire conflict. Because for those of you who don't know what a one-state solution is, it would be a plan where Israelis and Palestinians are forced to coexist and finally live together in one big unified state. And for some people, the critics of this plan, they say that this would never work, that the Israelis and Palestinians would always be at each other's throats, and that they would be killing each other left and right. But of course, that wouldn't be the case, because we lived in a country once where people were segregated, black people were segregated from white people, and in this country, guess what? We were forced to come together. Everybody was forced to come together. And did everybody end up killing each other? Did this country end up in tyranny? Did everything fall apart? No, it didn't. And it wouldn't in Israel and Palestine. But for some reason, people act like these two parties, the Palestinians and the Israelis, they can't coexist. But in reality, that's the exact solution. They need to be forced to coexist. Yes, there was going to be conflict. Yes, there's going to be turmoil at first. But at the end of the day, they need to be forced to coexist to overcome the differences with each other as a people, because at the end of the day, that's the only way that this is ever going to work. But of course, the way that these genocidal and Zionist maniacs want it to work, which Bernie Sanders had just revealed in his clip that he happens to be on the side of those Zionist maniacs because he says that he supports Israel's right to exist. And what it means to support the right to exist of the state of Israel is to support the existence of a Jewish supremacist state, because that's what Israel is, where Jews and the Israelis have greater rights than the rest of the society. That's what Israel is. It's a Jewish supremacist state. And Bernie Sanders is coming out and directly supporting that. Because if you don't support a one-state solution, if you do support the state of Israel and their right to exist, you're not supporting the right of the Palestinian state to exist. That's one thing. And of course, you're supporting a society that has a higher tier of citizens and everybody else is in a lower tier. So it's a Jewish supremacist state. That's what you're supporting. It's absolutely disgusting here. And for Bernie Sanders to say that he doesn't think that would ever work, what the hell is wrong with this guy? It reveals everything, that he doesn't actually support Palestine, that he doesn't actually care about the Palestinians. He's a closeted Zionist who might try to pretend otherwise, but in reality, he supports Israel. And of course, why do you think Bernie Sanders hasn't been kicked out of Congress like Thomas Massey was? Because of course, the Zionist lobby knows that Bernie Sanders knows exactly what he needs to do and exactly what he needs to say to get by and not lose his seat and not get challenged by the Zionist lobby. He knows exactly what he needs to say. And of course, that's why he's been in Congress now for over 40 years and he hasn't gotten kicked out like Thomas Massey just did. And so people, this is where this conversation takes another level. There's people on Twitter here trying to act surprised that well, how could I have ever trusted Bernie Sanders, and acting like this at this late date of 2026 is the moment where they finally realize that Bernie Sanders is a piece of crap who's never been on your side, who was always ready to stab you in the back the moment he got the chance. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, you should have realized this a very long time ago. Multiple times now, Bernie Sanders has had the opportunity to do the right thing, to do something different, to take a stand. And at one point, I myself thought that Bernie Sanders would have been a better option than Joe Biden, than Hillary Clinton. But at this point, at this late date, again, I don't think that Bernie Sanders, if he would have won in 2020 or in 2016 when he was running for president, at this point, I don't think he would have been any different than Hillary Clinton, than Joe Biden, than any standard Democrat. Because again, look at the way Bernie Sanders acts and look at the way he talks when it's actually time to take a stand. Just like AOC, he's, at the end of the day, every single time falls in line with the standard establishment line of the Democratic Party. Because at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders is a good old boy. He's a good old Democrat. And you can't trust a Democrat with anything, because at the end of the day, they always go back to their same corporate views, because this is a corporate party that answers to its corporate donors. And Bernie Sanders, he doesn't even need, just like I said about AOC in the other video, he doesn't even need to take the corporate money. He's just afraid of what they're willing to do to him. He's such a coward that he has no political courage to actually take a stand and actually fight the battles that need to be fought. That's why he wasn't willing to run as an independent. That's why he was never willing to challenge the Democratic Party. And even worse than that, Bernie Sanders, he plays the most sinister role. He plays the role of the man who pretends to be on the left, who pretends to be on the cutting edge, on the progressive side, the guy who pretends to say all the right things that you want to hear. But at the end of the day, it's just a trick. It's just a tactic. It's just lip service to do what? To funnel the people who are fed up with the Democratic Party, young people, people who matter, voters of color, to funnel all of those people who are ready and fed up to leave the Democratic Party, to funnel them right back in. No, don't leave the door just yet. Look, there's this guy saying things and perhaps finally finally being the guy who's saying the things you want to hear. But at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders, he can never deliver on his promises. He's been in Congress for how long? And what has Bernie Sanders gotten done in Congress? Has he managed to get a floor vote on Medicare for all? Has he managed to get that $15 minimum wage? Has he managed to get anything? Did he manage to hold Joe Biden's feet to the fire when he was in the presidency for 4 years? No, he's done none of it. Has he managed to get a ceasefire going in Gaza? No, Bernie Sanders has been at the forefront of none of this. And why? Because he has no political courage, just like AOCIA, and because, of course, he doesn't actually want to do any of these things. He's a sellout, and he knows what his role is. And of course, his role, as I just explained, is to get disaffected voters back into the Democratic Party. And he plays that role brilliantly. He's done it, and he's gotten millions of voters back into the hands of a genocidal corporate warmongering party. And so this is my final message for this video. And it's, if you ever hear Bernie Sanders' voice ever again, don't buy the bullshit. Do not listen to anything this man has to say, because just like the rest of these lying con man politicians, Bernie Sanders is exactly that: a liar, a tool, a dirtbag, and an operative, an agent ready to lie to you by any means necessary in order to get what he wants out of you. He's manipulating you just like the rest of them. That's the problem with Bernie Sanders. People seem to think that he's one of the good ones, that he's above the fray. Well, guess what? He's not. He's been lying to you since the very beginning. He's been on the same side as Hillary Clinton. He's willing to shake hands with Joe Biden on the debate stage and call Joe Biden his good friend. Why do you think Bernie Sanders calls Joe Biden his good friend? Why the hell do you think he's willing to say bullshit like that? Because he's a complete sellout, and Joe Biden is his good friend, because Bernie Sanders is a good old boy, and he's gonna do whatever it takes to get you back into the Democratic Party. And guess what? The Democratic Party, it's a road to nowhere. It's the road to the death of all political progression in this country. And you need to leave that party as quickly as humanly possible. For now, that's all I've got to say here. Screw Bernie Sanders. Please never vote for this man again. Never listen to anything that he has to say. That's all I've got to say for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and check out our last video. It was a long one where we talked about Glenn Greenwald and his debate against 20 pro-war Republicans on Jubilee. For now, that's all. Thank you so much for watching this video.